So I think we start with Surah Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله ولا أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we're going to be inshallah continuing our discussion on Dua al-Iftitah, but before I proceed with that, I just want to give everyone a bit of an idea, a roadmap of what we're planning for these Saturday night Dua sessions. So once we've completed Dua Iftitah, which I think will be by the end of Shahr Ramadan, say next Saturday, following on from that, we're going to be getting write-ups like we have for the Wednesday Majalis on the subject of dua. What is dua? Why would someone want to make dua? What is the purpose of dua? What does it mean when your dua is accepted? What does it mean when it's not accepted? What are the criteria and conditions? What do the actual, like proper, somewhat detailed tafsir of some of the more famous du'as like Dua Kumail, Dua Nudba, Dua Abu Hamza, Dua Iftitah, and even the small du'as that we have as part of the taqibat after namaz. And what is the purpose of them? What do they do for us? Du'as from within Quran. There's a lot of stuff I've put on the roadmap, which I'm quite happy to share later on offline. But this is the idea because we don't want these sessions just to be, someone looking at the translation or looking at the Arabic and providing a slightly more detailed translation understanding. We want it to be something tangible, something meaty, much like the Wednesday program. And this is a good place to this is a good subject to have detailed understandings on because dua is something that really we should be doing every waking and sleeping moment to Allah, even if it's a dua where we're not asking for anything. A dua doesn't need to be one where we, we're asking, oh Allah, I don't know, get me this or whatever. No, a dua can even just be a call. You're just calling someone. Sometimes when you call a friend, you don't really want anything from the friend. You just want to talk to them. You just want to have a banter. You want to have a conversation about anything. And this is the relationship we should have with Allah, where we don't just go to Him when times are hard or times are good. We go to Him just because we feel like going to Him. When we do tawassul, like in Dua Tawassul, what does that tawassul mean? Because many people have confusions about the idea of tawassul and wasila, intercession. And they feel some people think that we're asking the Imam to actually do something for us, whereas anyone who understands this knows the Imam themselves cannot do anything. Just like when Jesus Christ gave life to Lazarus, he didn't give life to Lazarus, he did it bi'iznillah, with the permission of Allah. And this is very important. These, again, they cascade into our ideology because these are elements of the ideology that are not always understood properly. And that can also be when you have a confused ideology, that can also potentially be a hindrance to your dua reaching where it needs to reach. But at the same time, it shouldn't be a case of someone gets so preoccupied and bogged down with, for example, the pronunciation of a dua or actually presenting the dua in a particular way that they forget who they're talking to and how they're talking, and they get preoccupied with the words. So I just wanted to give that as a bit of a primer, but if you can give me a salawat, we can just proceed with Dua al-Iftitah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So we had reached in Dua al-Iftitah the section where it's still doing the hamd, doing the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the line that we're going to continue from is the one which reads, Alhamdulillah alladhi min khashyatihi tar'adu as-sama'u wa sukkanuha wa tarjufu al-ardu wa ammaruha wa tamuju al-biharu wa man yasbah fi ghamaratiha. So this means that all praise belongs to Allah. Out of his awe-inspiring fear, the heavens and those within the heavens tremble and shiver. Now, in Quran, in Surah Al-Hashr, one of the last lines reads, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. That had we revealed the Quran upon a mountain, you would have seen it shatter out of awe and, like you could say, reverential fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And over here we're saying to Allah that all praise be to you, O Allah, that you are so awe-inspiring, that out of this awe, this reverential fear for you, that the entire heavens and all within it tremble and shake. They kind of like they're moved. You know, it shouldn't be. You see, sometimes when we talk about fear, because of linguistics, because of cultural conditioning, the fear that we have is this terror, this I'm terrified of this person because he's angry or he's able to beat me or something. The fear we have for Allah is more out of absolute awe and it's reverential. Yes, Allah can destroy us like this without anything. But at the same time, He has created us and Allah has no desire to destroy His creation. In fact, Allah wants His creation to recognize Him. I mean, He says, even in the famous hadith, that I was a hidden treasure. I wanted to be known. So Allah wanted to be known. He wanted us to worship Him. He says in Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I didn't create the jinn or the humans except that they should worship me. And in fact, in one of the earlier sessions on Wednesday, I believe in fact, the first one of the Lantern of the Path, we actually talk about what is worship. And the conclusion we arrived at is worship is essentially love. So one could translate that line of Quran where Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I didn't create the jinn or the humans except that they should love me. Except that they should love me because I love them. I have created them. I've given them everything, so they should love me. So when we talk about this fear, it's more out of absolute awe. You are completely, I think the colloquialism is your mind is blown by how amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. That there is nothing that is beyond him, nothing that he cannot do. And really in Quran, when he says that if we had revealed this Quran upon a mountain, just the sheer magnanimity and awesomeness of Quran, it would have, like, when you're really amazed by something, you find yourself trembling and shivering, right? Emotion makes you do this. And that shaking and shivering is not necessarily out of fear. It's just out of awe. And you feel that shaking, but with Allah, had He revealed Quran upon a mountain, you would have seen the mountain shake out of awe and be completely blown to pieces. And over here, we're saying that we recognize that, oh Allah, that you are so awesome, you are so amazing, that the entire heavens and all those within the heavens are in are so much in awe of you that they tremble and shiver at when they think of you, I mean, see is a word that humans use. It's not like seeing Allah, but just out of awe for Him. And then we continue, وَتَرْجُفُ الْأَرْضُ وَعَمَّارُهَا. And the same happens to the earth and all of its inhabitants. They shake and quiver at the mere thought of how awesome you are. Then it goes on, وَتَمُوجُ الْبِحَارُ وَمَن يَسْبَحُ فِي غَمَرَاتِهَا. And the oceans and all that floats and swims within the oceans, within their waters, they all become excited and tumultuous. They become moved. They see about Allah, they recognize Allah's awesomeness, and they also like are moved. And this is what we're telling Allah. It's not that, Allah is like this God with this massive hammer where he's so angry that his hammer, if you like, makes the heavens be fearful, makes the earth be fearful, makes the oceans be fearful. No, it's because he inspires such awesomeness, because he is so awesome. Then we move on to the next line, which is one of the most beautiful lines in this dua. Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana li hadha wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. In terms of Arabic rhetoric, Arabic balagha, as we say, this line, I mean, there have been books written on just this line. And it means all praise belongs to Allah who has guided us to this. And had He not guided us, we would not have been guided. And when you think about what he's saying over here, what Imam Mahdi is saying over here, that everything we're able to do, everything we have been guided to, Allah is the one who has guided us. And had He not guided us, we would be essentially rudderless. We would have just been flailing around, not really knowing which way to go, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go. But instead, Allah, in His infinite mercy, His infinite love, chose to guide us towards the right way. And this wires into Surah Al-Fatiha, where we say, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, that keep us upon the right path, guide us upon the right path. Because we always want Allah to guide us. This is the nature of the human condition. We want to be led, but we only want to be led by that which is perfect. We only want to be led by that which is directly connected to something greater than us. And this also will, in the next Wednesday session, we will be discussing, obviously we're discussing wilaya, and this is connected to the whole idea of wilaya, that the wali of Allah is the one who essentially guides us to the truth. And had he not guided us, Yani had the wali not guided us, which essentially is synonymous, you could say, with Allah not guiding us, because the wali will only tell us what Allah is expecting from us. Had he not guided us, we would not have been amongst the guided. So this line is something that we should, whenever we find ourselves doing something good, whenever we feel that, you're working on something, even if it's something as mundane as, you're cooking a meal, and the meal turns out very nice. You're happy with it, family's happy about it, everything. This is the way to do his hamd. That Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana li hadha wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. Of course, you have Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, but this is a lot more defined because you're not just saying all praise belongs to God, Lord of the world, Lord of the universes. You're saying all praise belongs to Allah who has guided us to this. And had he not guided us, we would not have been guided. So it's an acknowledgement that we ourselves, without his guidance, are nothing. We are literally just flailing around. We are rudderless. We don't know. But his guidance is what gives us purpose, gives us focus. Please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل.
Then we come to the next line, which again, this is all defining the attributes of Allah. The What is Allah? Like this is Dua al-Iftitah, you could argue, is a lesson in Tawheed par excellence. It's like an amazing lesson in Tawheed. Many of the du'as are, but this one is particularly refined and defined. So the next line is Alhamdulillah alladhi yakhluqu wa lam yukhlaq wa yarzuqu wa la yurzaq wa yut'imu wa la yut'am wa yumitu al-ahya wa yuhyi al-mawta wa huwa hayyun la yamut biyadihi al-khayr wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. So this is actually very beautiful. The first part of this line, Alhamdulillah alladhi yakhluq wa lam yukhlaq. All praise belongs to Allah who creates but is not created. Meaning he is the only entity that can create, but he himself was never created. He is not created by anyone or anything. وَيَرْزُقُ وَلَا يَرْزُقُ وَلَا يُرْزَقُ. That he gives sustenance but he himself does not need any. Yani he's completely needless, but he provides everything that a human needs, that anyone needs, be it a human, be it an ant, be it a termite, be it a wasp, a bee, anything, anything that needs any sort of sustenance, he is the one who provides, but he himself does not need. And we have to also understand over here that rizq is not just food. Many people make this wrong understanding that rizq is a reference to food. Food is part of rizq, but even the air you breathe, the friends you have, the conversations you have, the things you listen to, the things you read, what you learn, the weather around you, all of this is rizq, right? Rizq is anything that is inbound into the human condition. Anything that you take in is your rizq. And Allah is the only one who provides that. He might provide it through someone. So, for example, I may learn something about Islam by reading a book by, for example, Ayatollah Bayazdi. But actually, that book becomes my rizq. The knowledge in the book becomes part of my rizq. But it's Allah that is the originator of that rizq. And Ayatollah Bayazdi, Allah yarhamuhu, he is just a wasila, a pathway for me to get that rizq. But Allah, He doesn't need any rizq. He doesn't need anyone to give him subsistence or provisions or anything. The next line is وَيُطْعِمُ وَلَا يُطْعَمُ. And He is the one who feeds, but He Himself doesn't need nourishment. He doesn't need to be fed. And this also reinforces the idea that I just said, where rizq is not just your food. Because if rizq was just your food, why is Imam Mahdi then explicitly saying وَيُطْعِمْ وَلَا يُطْعَمْ? That he feeds, but he doesn't need feeding himself. If rizq was just food, then why repeat? There is no purpose in repeating. In eloquence, it doesn't make sense. In rhetoric, in balagha, it makes no sense to do it like that. But because the rizq is different, rizq is much more wholesome, much more all-encompassing, then at-ta'am, which is your food, the actual food that we need to eat, food and drink, yani. And even if you look at some of the ulama of akhlaq, even the idea of ta'am, nourishment, can also be beyond food as well. But I'm not going to get into that right now. The next line is وَيُطْعِمُ وَيُمِيتُ الْأَحْيَاءَ وَيُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. That he is the one who causes the living to die and he brings the dead to life. Now, this is two things that we learn from this. First of all, that Allah, we know He is the one who causes the living to die. And we know that He is the one who brings the dead back to life. There are examples in Quran, we know that this is the thing, but this reinforces our belief that Allah is the one. Yes, everyone knows that He can cause the living to die. But we know and we have certainty, because remember earlier on we talked about certainty at the beginning of the dua. We have certainty that He is the one who brings the dead back to life. And the next line He says, وَهُوَ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ. And He is the eternal, the ever living, the one who is life, who never dies. He is the one who never dies. He is always alive, for want of a better phrase. So this is, again, if we think about these three lines, this is our mortality in the face of Allah. Sometimes human beings, we become very arrogant. In Quran, there is a verse, I cannot remember the reference off the top of my head. It's إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَن رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. That humans, mankind becomes very arrogant when he sees himself without need, when he sees himself independent, when he sees himself, I've got everything, I don't need anything. But the reality is that no matter how powerful or, whatever someone might be, that person is unable to bring himself back to life. He might be able to take his own life, that's another discussion, but he's got no ability to bring himself to life. And he is not ever living. he will taste death, regardless of, whether these people want to put themselves in cryogenic chambers and keep themselves alive forever. They will still face death. The only entity that will never die is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it makes us understand our mortality in view of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That actually we are, how do I say, we are nothing compared to him. We are entirely dependent upon him. And then we say that, we essentially say that, بِيَدِهِ الْخَيْرِ, that everything that is good is in his hands. Everything that is good is in his hands. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And he has power and authority over everything. He's able to do all things. There is nothing that he cannot do. There is absolutely nothing that he cannot do. Now, at this point, we have finished this praising Allah and this lesson in Tawheed, this lesson in humility, this lesson in understanding who and what is Allah. At this point, that portion it's completed, you could say. There's a line under it. And then we move on to the awliya of Allah, the khas, the khas awliya of Allah. And we begin to talk about Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt. But look at how amazingly and how beautifully this dua, essentially Imam al-Hujjah, Jalla Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, talks about all of the A'imma and about Rasulullah. He says, اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. Now that's a lot. There's a lot there. So let's see what we're saying. So اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك. Oh Allah, send your blessings, your choicest blessings, to Muhammad, your servant, your abd. Remember in Wednesday's sessions with the baseline discussion, the highest level discussion is on ubudiyya, is on servitude. Over here, we're saying that, oh Allah, send your blessings to Muhammad, who is your servant, who is in your servitude, who is your messenger, who is your confidant. He's the one who has, yani he has, you have a confidence with him. He is your friend and he is your intimate, your beloved intimate. وَخِيرَتِكَ مِنْ خَلْقِكَ, and the best of your created beings. وَحَافِظِ سِرِّكَ, and the bearer, the one who has, who remembers, who is the custodian of your sacraments, your secrets. وَمُبَلِّغْ رِسَالَاتِكَ, and the conveyor of your messages, the one who tells people about your message. أَفْضَلَ وَأَحْسَنَ وَأَجْمَلَ, he's the most superior, the most exquisite, the most handsome, the most beautiful. وَأَكْمَلَ وَأَزْكَى وَأَنْمَى, the most perfect, the most upright, the most righteous, the most prosperous, the most prospering. وَأَطْيَبَ وَأَطْهَرَ وَأَسْنَى, أطيب means the most nicest, the most pleasant, the most purified, and the most sublime. وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت, and the most and best blessed, the one with the best advantages, the best mercies, the best affections, and the best salutations. And you're telling Allah, send these things to him. Give him the best of blessings, the best of advantages, the best of mercies, the best of your affections, the best of your salutations. وَسَلَّمْتَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ مِّنْ عِبَادِكَ وَأَنْبِيَائِكَ. Such salutations and such blessings that have never ever been bestowed upon any of your servants or your prophets, or upon any of your messengers, or even upon your choicest people, and all of those honored from amongst you, from your created beings. So, this is a way of recognizing who and what Rasulullah is. And it's not just words that maybe move us, that make us feel that, oh, Rasulullah, he was so amazing. Of course, he was amazing. That is like indisputable. But when we see all of these qualities, so we have Allah send blessings to Muhammad, your servant, your messenger, your confidant, your friend, your intimate. These are qualities that we know that a creation of Allah can develop, can have. So we have to build in ourselves the ability to be real servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be messengers, not in the same way as Rasulullah in the sense that we get divine wah, but a messenger is who? A messenger is someone who gives the message to other people who haven't received it or who haven't received it correctly. So we have a duty to do this. We have to be the confidant of Allah. We have to be the friend of Allah. We have to be intimate with Allah. And this again wires through to Mismah Sharia, where we have to have these attributes and qualities with the creation of Allah, with the believers, with everybody. We have to be their friend. We have to be the one who loves them. And then we say that Rasulullah is the choicest of your created beings, and he is the best of your created beings. So we have to strive to become better. We have to be from those people who وَحَافِظِ سِرِّكَ, that we're custodians, we're the bearers of Allah's secrets, sacraments, his secrets, his sacraments, his thoughts, his ideas, right? وَمُبَلِّغْ رِسَالَاتِكَ, and the conveyor of your messages. Now, we're saying Prophet Muhammad is the conveyor of your message, but we too have a responsibility to convey that message. Like we've seen in the sessions on Nubuwah, we all have a responsibility to continue that message. It's not like Rasulullah came, he did his work, and Ya Allah, it's all absolved. No, we who learn about what Rasulullah's message is, we have a duty to give that to people, to educate people. And then we do praise of Rasulullah and about the type of blessings that Allah should give him. أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت إلى آخر. So we're saying that give him the most superior, the best, the most exquisite, the most beautiful, the most perfect. And this is like a double meaning. Give him this, but this is also how we see him. The most perfect, the most upright, the most prospering, the best, the most prospering, yani does something but gets a result. Does something, gets a result, does something, gets a result, a positive result. وَأَطْيَبَ, the most pleasant. وَأَطْهَرَ, we have obviously Ayat Tathir, Surah Al-Ahzab, the chapter of the parties or the confederates, number 33 of Quran, and verse number 33, which is إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ رِجْسَ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا, that Allah wishes only to remove all impurities from you, Ahlul Bayt, and to purify you with a total purification. So we're accepting this over here. We're saying that Rasulullah is the most thoroughly purified. He is the most sublime. And he is the one that وَأَكْثَرَ مَا صَلَّيْتَ وَبَارَكْتَ, he has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the best of the blessings, the best of the advantages, the best of the mercies and affections of Allah and of Allah's creation. and salutations, the best of all of these that you have ever bestowed upon any of your servants, any of your prophets, your messengers, the people you love, and all of those who have been honored by you from amongst everyone that you have created, everything you have created, actually. So please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل.
So then we move on to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the first Imam of the Muslims, and we say, اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. This is also very interesting because in saying this, we're saying, oh Allah, send your blessings to Imam Ali, who is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful. ووصي رسول رب العالمين, and he is the successor of the prophet, of the messenger of the Lord of the worlds. So this is almost like a testimony of faith. We accept Imam Ali as the commander of the believers, the commander of the faithful, and the successor of the messenger of the Lord of the worlds. Meaning essentially that what Imam Ali says is what Rasulullah says. That the wilaya of Rasulullah continued through the wilaya of Imam Ali. And again, this is something we will cover in the Wednesday session, so that will inshallah be quite interesting. Then we say, who is this Imam Ali? Who is this Amir al-Mu'mineen? We say again, Abdika, he is your servant. Just like Rasulullah, Imam Ali is your servant. He is in a state of ubudiyya with you. He's in a state of servitude with you, O Allah. He is your wali. He is your beloved representative. And he is the brother of your prophet, your messenger. وَحُجَّتِكَ عَلَى خَلْقِكَ. Now, this is a very interesting idea. The hujjah, the idea of a hujjah. We have in our belief this idea that Allah will never leave the earth, will never leave the world or the universes without a hujjah over them. What is a hujjah? A hujjah can be translated as a proof, a decisive argument, something that is almost like a guarantee from Allah to all of Allah's creation. And one of the titles we have for Imam Mahdi, Ajalla Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, is Hujjat Allah, that he is the proof of Allah upon everyone. And all of the A'imma, all of the Imams are all Hujjat Allah. They are all proofs of Allah. They are all, how are they proofs of Allah? What does it mean, proofs of Allah? Because, we had, back in the day, we had Khulafa who were called Dhillullah, the shadow of Allah, and I don't know, this Allah and that Allah, all of these, titles. But what does Hujjat Allah actually mean? When someone is a Hujjat Allah, what does it mean? It means that this person essentially has a wilaya over all of creation. Allah has the ultimate wilaya, but Allah is not going to come down in human form and exercise that wilaya. This is not the way it works. We've discussed it in Tawheed. But the Hujjah of Allah is essentially the wali of Allah on the earth. He is the proof of Allah, the connection to Allah. So you could say he is the rope to Allah that keeps us connected. And as long as we hold on to this rope, as long as we follow the direction and the teachings and the lessons and the guidance of this Hujjat Allah, then we will be, as we say, we'll be connected to Allah. We will stay connected to Allah. So over here we're saying that Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, he is عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك. And he is your hujjah on all of creation. He is your wali and he is your hujjah. Then we say وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. Now these are references to verses in Quran that if we start going into this will become quite heavy and detailed in terms of tafsir, but there are verses in the Quran which talk about al-ayat al-kubra. There's Naba al-Azim. You know, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. The Surah An-Naba, starts with this, the chapter of good news. And we are saying that Imam Ali is the most important sign. He's ayatik al-kubra. He is your most important sign. This we have to think about. The most important sign of Allah is Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does that mean? This goes to the importance of wilayah, the importance of someone who is a hujjah of Allah and who is the wali of Allah. Because that is the most important sign. We have to recognize the wali of Allah. If we recognize the wali of Allah, we follow the wali of Allah, then we are, inshallah, from the successful. And we also, in our sessions on wilayah, we have mentioned the well-known hadith from all of the A'imma, especially Imam as-Sadiq, which is the one we mentioned, where he says that someone could pray their entire life, fast every single day, go to Hajj, give zakat and khamas and everything, do all of this stuff. But if they do not recognize the wali, then all of this is mute. All of this is without any value. Allah will not accept it. So the most important sign, and this analogy of signs works with our idea of how we're discussing the whole idea of our ideology, where we are trying to traverse our lives in this temporal domain to get to Ma'ad and be successful in Ma'ad. As in Qiyamah, get to Qiyamah, be successful in Qiyamah, and ultimately arrive at Tawheed, which is the dream. The dream is to become annihilated in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we want. This is what every believer wants. He wants to reach that level of Tawheed. Doesn't mean he becomes Allah. He becomes annihilated in Allah. He can see the face of God. So when we were talking about this earlier on when we started the Wednesday sessions, I said that all of these things, like for example, the justice of Allah gives us a lot of signs on the road. It gives us signs like, for example, this is the sign of Nubuwah. If you follow this sign of Nubuwah, you will get to Wilaya or Imama, which will then take you successfully to Ma'ad, and then you will have all of the information you need. You followed all the signs, you've done all the research. You will get the great news, the good news from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have been successful in Ma'ad and you're now going to, and you, metaphorically speaking, be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, وَآيَتِكَ الْكُبْرَى وَالنَّبَيِ الْعَظِيمِ. Then we go on to the next one, and I will finish with this one, and then we can continue, inshallah, next week. So this next one we go, وَصَلَّ عَلَى الصَّدِّيقَةِ الطَّاهِرَةِ, and send blessings to the most truthful and the purest of ladies, Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidati Nisa al-Alamin. Fatima al-Zahra, the master, the mistress of the ladies of the universe. Now, when you think about Fatima al-Zahra, we, especially as Shia, we do not accord Fatima al-Zahra the maqam that she has. We primarily, when we talk about Fatima Zahra, we talk about, oh, she was in hijab and she was very quiet and behind the curtain and all of this type of stuff. Whereas Fatima Zahra, she spoke, she gave huge advice. In fact, we discussed this in the next majlis, that she was giving warnings to the people in defense and teaching them about the wali of Allah. And when they went against the wali of Allah, she was the strongest voice in supporting the wali of Allah, Imam Ali. She was one of the strongest people supporting Rasulullah. I mean, it's not like by chance that Allah has said that she is Sayyidatin Nisa al-Alameen, that she is the doyen, the mistress of all of the women of the world, but also that she's the highest of the four of yani the most perfect women in all of history. The four of them are Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. You've got Sayyidina Maryam, you've got Sayyidina Khadija, and you've got Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. These are all very important people. And when we say, Oh Allah, send your blessings to Fatima Zahra, this isn't just words. And with all of these, it's not just words. This means that we want to learn from what Fatima Zahra taught the world. Who was Fatima Zahra? What was special about Fatima Zahra? How is it that Imam al-Hujjah in this dua is telling Allah, please send blessings to this, the most truthful and the most pure lady? How is she the most truthful? What did she do? How is she the most pure? What does that mean? How is she the doyan, the leader of all of the women of the universe? What does this mean? And so this and all of these, they set a task upon us to get to know who these people are. Because when you're sending blessings on someone shouldn't be like a one-way street where you just send blessings, khalas. The whole idea of sending blessings is that you develop some of those characteristics. So you fall in love with these people, you want to become like them. You want to understand what they did. You want to learn from their lives and you want to emulate them. You want to become like them. So we'll do Imam al-Hassan, Imam Hussein, and then we'll inshallah stop. So please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
And then you have وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. Now, this is also similar. We're telling Allah, or Imam Mahdi is telling Allah, and we are repeating his words, that send blessings to the children, to the sons of the mercy to the worlds. وَصَلَّ عَلَى صِبْطِ الرَّحْمَةِ. Send blessings to the sons of the mercy of the world. وَإِمَامِيَ الْهُدَى. And the leaders, the two leaders of true guidance. Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. So again, in this way, it's very similar to how we discussed about Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. We're saying that send blessings to these two sons of the Rahmah, of the Rahmatul Alameen. And these two Imams of real guidance, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. So when we say that these are the two leaders, the two Imams, the two Walis of real guidance, do we know what that guidance is? Or is it just something that makes us feel warm and fuzzy when we mention their names? When we mention Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, it shouldn't just be a case of we feel a pain for what happened to both of them. It shouldn't be that we remember only the last few days of Imam Hussein's life, or we remember what happened to Imam al-Hassan after he passed away, after he was made shaheed. We should be learning from their entire lives, the decades that they were there in service, be it during the time of their father Amir al-Mu'mineen, be it in the time of Rasulullah, be it at any time. Because when we just turn these people into names and slogans and titles, like we turn around, we say, Ya Aba Abdullah. Okay, you say Ya Aba Abdullah, but is your activity, is your behavior something that makes you someone who is worthy of saying that? It's the same notion, and again, we'll be covering this in Wednesday, but just to give a small idea, we might think that we have a certain wilaya on all of the Ahlul Bayt because we accept their wilaya. I accept the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I accept the wilaya of Imam al-Hassan wal-Hussein. What does that mean? Does that mean that I remember them, I cry, my heart bleeds when I think of Karbala? Or does it mean that I want to continue in their steps? Whatever work they were doing, I need to continue. I owe it to them for everything they've given us, all of the sacrifices that they've given. I owe it to them to do this, to continue this path. That when the flag that Abul Fadl Abbas was carrying fell after his martyrdom, I have to pick up that flag and carry on until I'm martyred. And then someone else picks it up, continues. But the flag never stops, never falls. This is the mentality. If we have just this idea of, oh, I cry for Imam Hussein, I cry for Imam al-Hassan, I cry for Fatima Zahra, I say all sorts of bad things to, you know, to people, يعني, I say things to people that will create sedition and strife regarding Fatima Zahra. And Fatima Zahra, one of the things we don't know is she was the biggest supporter of unity within the Ummah. She was the biggest supporter of unity and she was the biggest supporter of wilayah. Like we do not know Fatima Zahra. We don't even know Rasulullah. We don't know Amir al-Mu'mineen. There's one interesting story that comes to my mind about Amir al-Mu'mineen, where when the events happened in Saqifa and what should never have happened happened. Abu Sufyan came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Abu Sufyan obviously was his cousin, and he was also from the same tribe of Quraysh. He was from the line of Banu Umayyah. Imam Ali and Rasulullah were from the line of Banu Hashim. And Abu Sufyan said to Amir al-Mu'mineen that, Ibn al-Hasan, I will fill the streets of Medina with the youth of Quraysh so that you claim back your right. Because Imam Ali had his right stolen. He was the designated successor. He was the wali of Allah. But things that never should have happened happened. Abu Sufyan is saying that, Ya Abul Hassan, I will fill the streets of Medina. I will raise an army to retrieve your rights. The interesting thing is what Amir al-Mu'mineen said to him. Imam Ali didn't say, okay, that's a nice idea. Okay, yeah, let's do that. No, Imam Ali said, get away from here, Iblis. Get away from here, Shaitan. Because he understood what this man was doing. And as the wali of Allah, Imam Ali had a duty to the population and above all to Islam, to prevent Islam turning into a tribal, a backward system that it had replaced. So the same way, when we think about it, if someone was to come along and say this same story and replace the name Abu Sufyan with another name, maybe a name that is not so famous, you can be certain there are people who would say that, yes, yes, very good. Yeah, they should fill the streets because, Imam Ali's right. Habibi, look, Imam Ali's right was stolen. I get it. Everyone understands this. More than everyone else, Imam Ali and Fatima Zahra understood this. Much more than everyone else. But their stance on this position was at a much higher level. It didn't allow for sedition and sectarianism. And it didn't allow for the true Islam of Muhammad to become corrupted. So these are all of these lines in Dua al-Iftitah when we remember, and in any dua, any ziyarah, when we remember any of these people, Fatima Zahra, Imam Ali, Rasulullah, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, etc., it shouldn't just be that we remember their names. It shouldn't just be something that gives us like a warm feeling inside. Although there's nothing wrong with that. We love these people. Literally when we say uh, that may our parents, may our lives be sacrificed for you. When we say this about the Imams, about Ahlul Bayt, this should be sincere, this should be real. But it shouldn't be a case of like it's just words. It should really be a case of if the Imam told me to do something which I absolutely hate, what am I going to do at that point? And on that thought, I think we end the session for today, and we pray that Allah accepts our small ibadat, and He guides us and gives us inspiration to understand the true Islam of Muhammad, to understand this line of wilayah, this line of the true Islam, this line that is directly connected to Allah through Ahlul Bayt, through Rasulullah, and that He ensures that we never falter, we never split away from this line, and that we always continue to be loyal and true to the wali of Allah, that we retain our composure and that our thinking and everything, regardless in what arena, what realm, what scenario, is governed by the wali of Allah and not by our own notions and our own ideas, regardless of how we might feel about that. If we keep ourselves connected to this line of haqq, to this line of truth, to this line of wilayah, then we can be certain that, as Quran even says, that those people, innama waliyukum Allah, that your wali is Allah, His Messenger, and the believers who give zakat while they're in ruku'. And verily, the partisans of Allah, which is what these people are, the believers, the faithful, that verily these partisans of Allah are truly among the successful and the victorious. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.